quote, an authoritative representative of the Archbishop. The Archdiocese does not consider the SSPX to be schismatic.
The actual church that was consecrated, tell us about this. What is the history? What is the background of this particular church?
Right. So I think it might be the largest Catholic church in the state of Kansas now. I do know that it is the largest SSPX built church anywhere in the world. I believe it stands about 12 stories tall and seats around 1,500 people, and it's a gorgeous church. But essentially, this is a project really decades in the making. When the SSPX originally bought the property of an old Jesuit-run college in St. Mary's, Kansas, there was a beautiful church that was, I think, originally built in 1909 called the Immaculata, hence the name of the new church. Very shortly after they purchased that land, I think in 1978, there was a fire. There was some kind of an electrical short. The church caught fire and was very badly damaged, basically beyond restoration. It was more efficient just to demolish the old building and build a new one, which is what they decided to do. So, they've been fundraising for this new project for decades, literally, and now this year they finally finished construction and were able to consecrate the building. It's a shame that there's been so much of what's colloquially called a recovation of Catholic churches over the past several decades, but I think that's a very fitting term because so many of them truly have been wrecked. They've had their beautiful majestic high altars torn out and replaced with a little table, much more reminiscent of a Protestant community rather than a Catholic church. So it's great to see, this new Immaculata church cost in the neighborhood of $42 million. And my understanding is that about 99% of that was paid off in advance. So they have very little remaining to pay off. That's really impressive. Bishop Bernard Ferlet, who is one of the four bishops consecrated illicitly in 1988 by Archbishop Marcel LeFevre, jokingly commented during his sermon that an official from Rome one time asked him, Pope Francis asked me, this official said, where does the society get all its money? And Bishop Ferlet said, I'm paraphrasing a bit, it's not the result of a few, very rich, generous benefactors, but it's really from Catholic faithful who have the faith, who are giving of the little of their substance for the common good of the whole. So it was a very good explanation, I think. Yeah, so I've decided to reach out to the Archdiocese for comments. I emailed the Archdiocese Office of Media Relations and asked a few specific questions. These are all listed in my article. So first of all, does Archbishop Joseph Naumann, the Archbishop of Kansas City, consider the members of the SSPX to be schismatic? If yes, on what grounds? And just to be clear, the only actual members of the Society of St. Pius X are the clerics themselves. There are no lay members of the society, just to be clear about that. It's only the priests and the four bishops. Number two, does Archbishop Naumann hold that Catholics may fulfill their Sunday and Holy Day obligation by attending a Mass offered by an SSPX priest? If no, on what grounds? And then finally, does Archbishop Naumann ever grant faculties to SSPX priests to witness Catholic marriages in accord with the Pontifical Commission Ecclesia Dei's 2017 letter? The person who responded, who composed these answers was not identified, but I was told that it was, quote, an authoritative representative of the Archbishop. While regrettably the Church, meaning the Catholic Church, and the SSPX are not currently in full communion, the Archdiocese does not consider the SSPX to be schismatic. While canonically one may fulfill one's obligation to participate at Holy Mass on Sundays and Holy Days of obligation by attending an SSPX Mass, the Masses are not licitly offered by priests possessing the grant of priestly faculties from the Archdiocese. Therefore, participation at SSPX Masses to satisfy one's Sunday obligation is discouraged. Now, discouraged doesn't mean not allowed or not possible. It simply is discouraged. They do say you can fulfill your obligation by attending an SSPX Mass. And then finally, the answer says the Archdiocese does, in support of Pope Francis's pastoral outlook as expressed in the 2017 letter, grant SSPX priests the faculty to witness marriages when the priests requested. The Archdiocese understands that at this time, the SSPX priests in St. Mary's request faculties to witness all marriages at the Immaculata, end quote. in a certain sense, you mentioned Bishop Athanasius Schneider. I'm a big fan of his as well. I've gotten to meet him. His is more than just maybe like a private opinion, because he was actually sent in 2015 as what's called an apostolic visitator, kind of an official envoy from the Vatican, the Holy See, to formally, officially visit the seminaries of the Society of St. Pius X and report back to Rome about his findings regarding the state of things, his analysis of what they're doing. And essentially he said, quote, "There are no weighty reasons in order to deny the clergy and faithful of the SSPX the official canonical recognition." And he's also said in his book-length interview, which he did with Diane Montagna, and I quote this in my article, "The SSPX are already in communion with the Church since they recognize the current Pope, mention him in the canon of the Mass, pray for him publicly, and pray for the local diocesan bishop. In my opinion," he continues, "the SSPX should be recognized, in other words, given canonical status, which is what they currently lack. And if they were, it would be a true spiritual and pastoral help to the entire Church," says Bishop Schneider in Christus Vincit, "to strengthen doctrine and tradition in the Church." So that's kind of why I chose to reach out to the Archdiocese, just to see where they stand on the issue, because at least one of the Pope's official representatives inquiring into this society has a very positive take on them, and that is Bishop Athanasius Schneider. Kind of the heart of the matter, as your listeners may be familiar, Archbishop Marcel LeFevre, who founded the society in 1970, did so because he was concerned about the trajectory of the Church following the Second Vatican Council, the new ways of doing things, and specifically priestly formation, which is what his concern was about. He had taken an early retirement, but he had seminarians coming to him saying, we're worried about going to such and such seminary because of the new ways of doing things, and some of the things we're seeing and hearing there are very concerning to us. We want good Orthodox formation. And so finally he basically gave in to their clamoring and decided to start his own seminary with the approval of a local bishop in Switzerland. But that's kind of been the sticking point for them, is he has deep concerns about the new Mass, the Novus Ordo Missae, as well as certain novel, I don't even know if you can call them teachings per se. I guess they are teachings in a certain sense, but almost like policy positions or prudential matters in the documents of Vatican II, which, not to just bring up Bishop Schneider again, he shares many of the concerns of the society on these matters, and he has expressed them publicly. He's published on them, and yet he is, in full communion. And yet the society expresses those same concerns, those same positions, and somehow they're not in full communion according to the authorities. So it's very confusing, very confusing.
There's rumors that there are going to be more ordinations. Do you think the Vatican will approve additional bishops being ordained in the SSPX?
Well, actually, just yesterday, the Society of St. Pius X released an official statement on that matter, some commentary by one of the high-ranking members of the society, a Father Gliese. I think I'm pronouncing that name correctly. He's one of their seminary professors in the original seminary in Écône, Father Jean-Michel Gliese, professor of apologetics, ecclesiology, and theology. And he has essentially said that it is a tall tale. He says, maybe you read it on social media, that coming up, the society, Bishop Vitus Honder, the retired bishop who's living in one of their houses, assisted by one of Bishop de la Galarreta and Bishop Fillet, will confer episcopal consecration on 3 priests, among whom are the current Superior General, Father David Pagliarani. But he basically said this is fake news, so don't give it any credence.
And that's official from the SSPX. There you go, folks.
Correct.
Wrapping up the rumors. Hey, Matt Gaspers, I really appreciate your time today. I think it's great conversation and important to have, and clarity is charity. So let's pray that the Holy See will provide clarity for the community that has been going to the SSPX. I think that would be good. Catholic Family News, CatholicFamilyNews.com is their website. We're going to link to this particular article with the headline says Archdiocese of Kansas City comments on SSPX in light of recent Immaculata church consecration. But that'll be over at thestationofthecross.com/ACT in our show notes. Matt Gaspers, God bless you. God love you. We'd love to have you back sometime.
Thanks, Joe. God bless.